Welcome back, ladies and gents. I hope you're all having an excellent start to your Friday. In today's analysis, we're going to be getting into the Bitcoin charts. As usual, also taking a look at Chainlink and Ethereum. I want to share with you my thoughts on the momentum indicators, which are going to be very important for today's price action. We're also going to be taking a look at the critical regions on the charts for some potential trading opportunities. Today's video is going to be extremely important, so I want to get it out as soon as possible for you all. And as you guys know, I respect your time and also mine, so I don't keep you waiting around. So as usual, let's get right into it here. We want to start off on the 4-hour time frame. Now we're going to be going back to the chart that I posted here on the 20th, so 3 days ago when we were at these lows. It's going to be very relevant to explain my point and my thoughts on the charts for the current price action. We're going to be going through the momentum oscillators. It's going to be extremely important. So taking a look at what we were talking about here a few days ago. Now, basically, we were looking at some long positions because looking at the 4-hour, we were setting up well on the 4 hours sooner or later. And I'd been getting asked a few questions about some trades. So I said that I'm personally getting ready to long on that setup that I have posted just below here. So we want to take a look at this setup, and we want to take a look at the setup on the momentum indicators when we're actually at those lows. We saw the price come down to our very important support, or very close to our important support, which was the weekly S3. We generally don't look at that to break on the first go, and we didn't quite make it to these lows right here. We did see the momentum indicator here, the stochastic, actually potentially cross the upside. We also saw a momentum indicator here show us the bullish divergences set in at these lows. We also saw the market mastery showing us a pivot on the RSI here. So all of these were setting up for a nice, at least temporary bounce to the upside. Now overall, even before our move to the downside here, we had seen some bullish divergences on the higher time frames. So that's going to be very important. I want you guys to remember that. The high time frame bullish divergences could still definitely be in play here, and they definitely are because the structure is holding. However, we've already had a 12% bounce. Therefore, our 1-day time frame, our some of those 2-day time frames, 3-day time frames, they're going to take a little bit longer than the lower time frames to play out. So remember the setup we just spoke about with the bullish divergences and with everything that we saw on our oscillators. Now we want to be taking a look at what is happening on these oscillators now. We are actually seeing the stochastic all the way up at the critical zone once again. We are seeing, if we look at our momentum indicator here and zoom out a little bit, a potential hidden bearish divergence. Okay, so hidden bearish divergence from this point, from the 12th of July down to the point that we are at now. We also see some regular divergence here on the market mastery, shown by the red here. So some potential, basically a opposite view of what we saw in the 4-hour at these exact lows when we're looking for those long positions once again, the ones that are posted in the Discord. So right now is not the place for me to be going long. Where I already mentioned, even if you did miss longs down in this area, I was talking about an acceptance back into this range as another trading opportunity. Of course, this is the way that I look at the market. You have to realize that this is not financial advice, but basically this did work out quite well. And we will go through those positions, because even if we were trading it off the 4-hour and we didn't trade, the exact acceptance back into the range, we've already moved up about 4.8% from there. So resetting the oscillators on the lower time frames is never the end of the world. It actually is better for price action for the oscillators to reset here, because they're not going to go up in one straight line and we're not going to go down in one straight line. That is not how markets work. Of course, we're going to have to go for liquidity. And so right now, as the price action is looking, breaking back into this bearish order block, which the lows of it is around 32,360, that would even be more reason to be looking for a short-term pullback on some of the lower to medium time frames, such as a 4-hour, because if we look at our 1-hour right now as well, we'd be seeing a cross down again from the critical zone. Same with the 2-hour here, potentially. And so this is going to be very important. Of course, we don't see much volume coming yet because our New York Stock Exchange session has not opened yet. That is going to be extremely important for price action. That's when we see most of the volume. So maintaining above this region would mean that we could make a higher move inside of the range. However, with these bearish divergences playing out, that would give more opportunity for long positions. So any pullbacks I still look at opportunity. Of course, we could be looking at short positions as well if you are a scalp trader, if you are a lower time frame trader. But with everything looking like this, with already a move to the upside, personally, I would not be looking at, another long position, because I've already discussed my setups on those long positions, a few days ago, and even back into this channel, we even discussed it on the public YouTube channel here as well. So overall, short time frames or lower time frames are looking like a little bit of a pullback, a potential on the charts, and doesn't mean we have to get it. We're definitely going to have to wait and see with the New York Stock Exchange open, but that's what I would be overall looking at. Right now, price action is back into that bearish order block, and of course having acceptance back into the range gives us high probabilities from $31,125 to oscillate the entire range. And where we have seen the sell pressure is the region that we shorted down here on the 18th of July. If we look at this was literally a 9.7% move, and now we are back at that resistance. So for me, we don't have any confirmed closures above that resistance. Therefore, I don't look for longs into the resistance. I'm already in long positions a little bit lower, and I will go through those with you guys. However, taking profits on those as always, because we want to stay covered in the market and of course be trailing our stop losses. So they are my thoughts on the lower time frames. Now let's take a look at some of the high time frames, because as you guys already know, we discussed these before our move to the downside, further move to the downside. We simply came to the lows of this range. I did want to see a move down here to the 22nd of June lows for a very low risk long. However, we did not get that. We had our 4-hour setup present itself before we got to those lows, so that was enough for a trade in and of itself. But our momentum oscillators basically here were showing us bullish divergences. So these definitely could have more in them, because usually we do see more from these bullish divergences on these high time frames, such as a 1 day. We're also seeing the stochastic cross up from the critical zone. So basically the same setup here on the 4-hour that we saw a few days ago is already occurring and already playing out on the 1 day. It's about maintaining for the bulls right now, getting back above around 33,135 and being able to oscillate this range, because on the CME chart, we have acceptance back into this larger range that we had been trading from the 25th of June. So that would give us high probabilities. As long as we can actually break the upper point of control here off the monthly profile range, around 32,575, we would be looking at an oscillation at least to the monthly pivot, and then if we can break that to the top of this range right here. And at that point, it's going to be very important for bulls to be able to maintain, but I don't want to be giving too many, long-term predictions here, because that is not the way I trade. I try to give you guys an unbiased view, what I see on the charts, and of course, that is usually why this channel is not as popular, because I don't try to ride on the FOMO here. I try to, give you guys my exact thoughts on the charts, exactly what we were looking at, short positions to the downside. Now looking at these high time frames as gaining some momentum, but it's going to be important for those lower time frames to reset. So one last thing I'm going to say here on the lower time frames is that, like I said, it is not the end of the world if we do pull back, but what's important here is to be able to maintain inside of this range. Maintaining inside of this range and reaccumulating would give us high probabilities to be able to go for that breakout sooner rather than later. And coming into the weekend, I obviously do not usually trade the weekends, so this would be very interesting for me to see where the CME does close, because the CME weekly will close tonight, and typically the price action will close at the exact same level unless we are to create a CME gap such as the one we did here. So usually the price action, even if we do move, will come back to that exact level, so keep that in mind most definitely. Now let's go through our trades before we move on to the Link USD and Ethereum charts. So right here, we want to go on to this. So these are the main trades here, long positions. So the $31,397 long position closing at $32,550, because that is the resistance that I'm looking at. That is my first take profit. I have readjusted the stop loss on that. Now, why did I pick that long position? Remember, the entry is $31,397. I stick to the analysis that I speak to you guys about, and that is obviously because we found acceptance back into the range. So missing long positions down here, I would not be looking at longs right here. I would actually be looking for acceptance back into the range, because that would give me high probabilities, a clear stop loss, a clear invalidation point below the channel for me to actually ride this channel to the upside. So now we've moved up about 4.8% from there, and closures here were about 31,300 is my entry. So basically in this candle is my entry here. And of course, I would have traded off the lower time frame, such as a 15-minute. And then taking a look at the next one, this was a little bit higher up inside the range at $31,786. Now, what is the reasoning for that? That is because it is the median of the channel. And price did come from the bearish order block, saw quite a rejection because this is where the large sell orders will come in from the bearish order block. Down to the median of the channel, that's where I look for those long positions on the lower time frames. And if we go ahead and actually maximize this, put on our VPVR, our volume profile, we can see that that was a nice area, because if we are looking at the volume here, we actually have some big volume building up there. We have a high volume node, and of course the point of control is showing where the highs that we've actually stopped at right now. So that would make it a key resistance as well. And what we can see here is the median of the channel, the range that I had already spoke about, giving us another buying opportunity. And so, once we do have it, you can actually see it. Once I've zoomed out a little bit, it's showing us that high volume node here, that point of control still. And therefore, this does make it a low risk trade as well. So right now, seeing some sell pressure from those bearish divergences. And tonight's session is going to be extremely important. When I upload these videos, of course, we haven't seen much volume come in. We don't have much data. So it's always best for me to, update the group once we do see that more volume come in near the New York Stock Exchange open. So they're my thoughts on Bitcoin right now. Let's move on to the Link USD charts. Link USD, beautiful move from the bullish order block once again. What we are seeing is a move up to that weekly pivot. So that's a very important resistance. We had a very similar thing on Link where we did find acceptance back into the range. It was a little bit more choppy here as we did come down to the S1. But ultimately, when we do break resistance, which is our weekly S1 here, break back above it, even if you miss long positions down here, you look for a resistance support flip off that weekly pivot, and your general target is going to be at the weekly pivot. And so that is about a 9.8% move to the upside. Lovely to see here. That would be the important resistance to regain at around 1638. I want to see that regained, but right now, if you did pick up those trades, that's absolutely fantastic. Looking at the momentum oscillators as well, I would assume, yes, similar going on to the Link USD charts. So going on to our Binance, as that's what we're on. Yep. So Link USD, stochastic, all the way up here. We're actually hitting resistance that we have been facing since the 26th of May. That is some major highs in the market. If we actually look at what is going on to the charts here, let's take a look at this. So if we look at this right here, we can see that that is ultimately, you can see these highs. Basically from when the range started, we are seeing this play out quite well. From $20 all the way down to $17. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. So $20 down, that's about a 15% move. The first one, obviously, when we formed the trend line, we did see right here on the 8th of July. That was at the shorts that we spoke about up here. That was a fantastic move of about 37%. Now we are basically back at that resistance. So for the weekly pivots, or for the 4-hour time frame, sorry, for Link, I would be looking at the exact same thing as Bitcoin right now. It's looking like it's coming back up to resistance, so the bulls will need to make their move very, very soon, or else a lower time frame pullback is very likely on the charts as we have come up to the weekly pivot. If we are below the weekly pivot, we're generally looking at this as a bearish bias. If we are above it, we are looking at it as a bullish bias. But that doesn't change the fact that we can look for low risk, long opportunities when we reclaim the resistance at the weekly S1, because we're going to have longs coming in, targeting that weekly pivot. We're going to have profit takers at the weekly pivot as well. We're just going to know that that's a big area of interest for us. So bouncing up 10%, I would, stay chill on this, because a lot of people, will see these moves, and then right at the end of the move, at least on the lower time frames, they will try to get in. All I'm trying to say here is that, of course, getting in after a 10%, 20% move to the upside, that adds more risk on the charts. It doesn't add less risk, it adds more risk, especially since we are coming back up to that, high time frame channel as well. So definitely keep that in mind. As long as you have a clear stop loss, clear invalidation point, you can always be going for your own trades. Of course, I'm not here to tell you guys what to trade. This is not financial advice, but with the ways that we do trade here, you guys can see that it is quite consistent and that it has been playing out, absolutely amazing as well. So right now for Ethereum USD, we have come back. We didn't test the weekly S1 as well as we did on, Chainlink. However, acceptance back above it, that's still a long position targeting the weekly pivot. That was around 1,863. Now we've actually come up above the weekly pivot. We retested that as support 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And we have moved up to the R1 about 6.2%. So the R1 is going to be your general target after the weekly pivot. There's going to be profit takers. There's going to be counter trades coming in there. So that's a lower time frame. That's a lower time frame area of interest. And since we do see some high volume nodes here, not as much as down here, of course, at the point of control, but still some high volume nodes with the weekly R1, I would be looking at acceptance back above that region as good for price action. So 2092, and the lower time frames would be looking basically the same as Chainlink as far as the momentum oscillators go, and of course Bitcoin as well. So acceptance back above there, I would target around 2,167, and the key support would be 1,970 right now. So that is about it from me, guys. I hope that you have enjoyed today's video. If you have, I would appreciate it if you went ahead and left a like on it and supported the channel. I don't ask you guys often, but if you guys do that, I would very much appreciate it. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon if you are not subscribed. And if you would like to join the private trading program, go ahead and send me a message on Discord. My username is down below in the description, at the top of the description. Have a lovely rest of your weekend, and I will catch you in tomorrow's one.